All right, it's Dana White Contender Series 2025, Week 1. Gianni and I, this is right in our wheelhouse. This is one of our favorite 10-week stretches. Let's talk about some of these fights here. Anything jump off the page here? I've got some pretty good thoughts. I like a lot of unders on this card. What do you think?
A great read immediately, because what are we looking at? 3 of the 5 fights are 2.5, are lined at 2.5. You're usually looking at 1.5, especially when you get into the higher weight classes. Like here, 3 of the fights are at middleweight, and yet we're looking at 2.5 when we know the bias on Contender Series is towards the under. You can't forget that, because Dana wants to see finishes. You want to make the roster, you got to impress. So they'll take a little more risks because of that. There's a lot of bias towards the under, but here's what you can't forget, that on average, like, they're not finishing a lot higher rate than they are in the UFC, meaning you expect it to be a little bit higher than, 50-50, like we see in the UFC, 50% decisions, 50% finishes. But even last year, only 63% of the fights ended in finish. The year prior, 55%. 2 years before that, 52%. So it's not like they're in that 70% or higher finish rate. Keep that in mind. And also keep in mind, favorites outperformed last year. Going into at the end of 2023, the underdogs did well. Favorites only won 55% of the fights. So that was a dog year. So last year, we expected the market to bounce back and the favorites to do better. That's exactly what they did. In fact, going into final week last year, favorites were 80%. 80% of favorites had won going into week 10, and then the dogs went 4-1. So when the season ended, the favorites still won 73% of their fights. Look for those favorites to be a little bit overvalued at least the first few weeks of the season, and that's what it looked like, because if you look at the opening lines, every single line dropped from the opener except for Ty Miller, who opened -150, got steamed up to -230 within 10 minutes, then came back down, and since then he's near that 2-1 favorite. Every other line got steamed towards the dog. So they were a little bit overvalued, and that's what we expected the market to do, and that's what they're doing so far. Real quickly, 2 fighters that jumped off the page at me. Susurkaev, I'll have to get that pronunciation during the meeting, over Talha. 7.5-inch reach advantage, almost 5-inch just his kicks to an advantage. The kid's a stud. He's got the wrestling background as well. This is a chalky favorite, but I think it's warranted, and a live dog for you. Again, this is early. Please don't paint me in a corner. I could be opposite these by the time the fight starts, because I didn't release any premiums yet to subscribers. I'm still working on it. I still have a production meeting where I get a lot of good information and even get to see these fighters before the show starts. But I do think Radley de Silva offers up some value at plus money. Most of the value has been extracted because Mangos opened -400, got back down to -300. Now it's about -150 favorite. So the price really changed on Mangos, but I thought De Silva at plus money offered some value there for sure. If he could get out of the first round, I think he's live.
Yeah, we got Ewert versus Panferov. I don't think that fight goes the distance. I actually like the under 1.5 plus 175. Panferov will make that a firefight. Ewert's got power. Ewert -230. I wouldn't lay -230 because, like I said, Panferov is going to turn that into an absolute brawl. Mangos and De Silva. I actually like Mangos. I love this series that he comes out of, the Hex series. Those Australian guys.
Yeah, and a title. Yeah, that's why I was on Mangos. This is the line scaring me.
Yeah. You're right about Susurkaev. I think Talha's kind of bad. He got beat up pretty bad last Contender Series. They said he may have had a knee injury. So he comes out of Contender Series and he fights a guy who's so bad, they disqualified all of his fights. They said, you're so bad, you're not actually a fighter. So that's who Talha's fight. He can't block a leg kick. You're right. Susurkaev's a stuff. Ty Miller and Drago. I think both these guys are going to end up in UFC. They're both good. Ty Miller, if you haven't seen him punch, snappy jabs. I like that fight under 2.5. Just because Drago's
matched up against each other.
I know. Same with Mangos and De Silva. I think both those guys could end up in UFC. But Miller and Drago, I think goes under. Miller's got these long jabs, can knock you out. Drago's huge step up in competition. And then Bouafia and Santana, I got to be honest, I'm not too excited about that one. But the under 2.5 is super juiced, but I can't quite Can't quite get
I'm not moving away from it. I was looking at Contender Series or UFC for Saturday as the $5 pick, but I'm like, I'm giving just the biggest, strongest bet I have on the board for today. It's in Major League Baseball. It's up at wagerstalk.com. Don't forget, watch the Contender Series tonight on ESPN Plus. Starts early this week. It's 7 p.m. Eastern. The first week of the season, that's what they do. Next week, it'll go back to normal 8 p.m. Eastern. I'll be on throughout the show. Parlay before the show. Dude, I have to give out a parlay every week before when the show starts.
I know.
And this,
Wait, we watch you.
A totals parlay on top of it. Like there's 5 fights. I have to give out 3 of them. And then people bitch if it has. That's like telling somebody on the Saturday that there's UFC 12 fights. You got to give us 6 totals. Just give us 6 totals.
Oh, that's a no-win situation. That's
It's
a no-win.
It's tough, but I love doing it. I can't complain. Hopefully have some winners for you guys.